Hey everyone, good evening. We really appreciate you guys all taking your time and spending some time with us and listening to Lillian. I've been friends with Lillian a long time through dogs, and she's like the best dog advocate there could possibly be. She's got a 4-year degree in biology, which blows my mind totally because that's totally not my thing. And she's a dog trainer for a long, long time, a dog breeder for a long, long time. And she just has the biggest heart for the dogs and for us because she wants us to understand how to really help our dogs stay safe and stay healthy. So get ready, take notes, guys. She's got a lot of information and it's going to be told so we can understand it. So thank you so much, Lillian, for doing this for us.
Thank you, Carolee. Carolee and I are related through our dogs because her lab Turbo, I bred him, and I have two of his sisters. So that's that's our connection. But I got started in dogs when I was 12 years old, when I bugged my mom to death, and she finally got me a dog. And then she made me sign a book that I was going to be responsible for training it. And she enrolled me in some puppy training classes. That's when I was 12. I'm going to be 63 this May, and I have never stopped having a dog or training. And so the way that this evolved, like Carolee said, I did go to college for biology, so animals and nature, I've always been interested in that, and I love science. But as my pack grew to be 10 dogs at a time, I started with beagles, and I had Goldens and Labrador retrievers, and I competed in obedience and conformation. And what happened was that I was going to the vet for the same recurrent issues, ear infections, skin infections, the same thing over and over. And then, they would prescribe medication, and then it would work for a bit. And then 2 months later, I was back at square one. And this was, 20 some years ago. There was no World Wide Web where you could, go in and type something, or you rely on your vet and books or seminars. And I started interested in this idea, like, why don't we get to the root cause? Like, why am I going back to the same old? And then after that, so that developed my interest, and I was living in Venezuela at that time. I was able to find a homeopathic vet and acupuncture. That was pretty much, some people would do back flowers, but that was about it. And then I started thinking about this concept of, why don't we get to the root cause? So why wait until things come up and then we try to treat them? And I was trying to treat them naturally as opposed to with pharmaceuticals and surgery. Why don't we get to the root cause? So fast forward to 2013, I got a call from a good friend, and she wanted me to watch this interview with a researcher at University of Colorado. Some of you may have watched that. We call it the ABC report. If you haven't, get back with the person who invited you and watch that. I watched that and my jaw dropped to the ground. And I said, if this is just half true, like, I wanted not just for the dogs, which was my friend's initial idea because of my dog training, but I really wanted it for everyone in my family. So that's how I got into this path. And I'm going to share my screen. So give me a minute here. Technology, please be my friend. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to be talking today is nutrigenomics. And that sounds like a fancy word. Some of you may have heard of it. If not, you will be hearing of it, because it turns out that genomics is poised to be in the 12 most disruptive technologies in the near future. And near future now means like 3 to 5 years. It's not like 10 years from now. It's like going to happen like right now. So nutrigenomics is how nutrition can change your gene expression. And why is this important? Because we can use that knowledge that is available right now to optimize our dog's health. So one of the things that kind of it's become like my mission is this, I see it, with my students. I see it, if you're in social media, you read about it all the time. People posting, my dog was diagnosed with this, my dog was diagnosed with that, and all the posts about, the dog's dying, and it breaks your heart, and all the suffering. And cancer really started to be top of mind. Just a few months ago, one of my students, he was just 9 years old, was diagnosed with lung cancer. Dog students, dog. So one of the dogs, not one of my human students. And within 3 months, he was gone. This is a dog that's been cared for all his life, you know, with a loving family. And I started reading more about this nutrigenomics concept in alignment with cancer. So this vet here, Dr. Martin Goldstein, that was one of the first books that I read. At that time, like I said, there was no World Wide Web. So he had a book about natural healing. And so he is, you can see here, he's an older guy. So I think he was probably one of the first that started with this about, you know, healing our dogs naturally. So he says here in his book, says, when I graduated, not in his book, this is some other people that I follow here, The Truth About Pet Cancer. So this is a documentary where they interview like 7-8 different vets just talking on the topic of cancer. So one of the things he says when they interview him here is that when he graduated from Cornell in 1973, he said approximately only 1 in 10 dogs had cancer, and it was always a disease of the old. So if they had a young dog come in with some issues, they never thought that cancer would be the first thing that they would think about, right? So, and he says that now they're seeing dogs even under 18 months old with terminal cancers. So what all these vets agree on is that if you look back 50 years ago, they think the cancer rate might have been 1 in 100. And today, according to PhDs, the dog has the highest rate of cancer in all animals in the planet. And it is going to probably be 1 in 2 dogs to 1 in 1.65 dogs. And then they say that every dog over 10 years old, 50% of dogs over 10 years of age will be diagnosed and die of cancer. So that is just absolutely unacceptable to me. So this is kind of a little bit of the compilation of everything they talked in that documentary. But what is happening is that dogs are being exposed to a massive amount of environmental toxins. And we can start here on the right part. So we have vaccinations every single year. There's like 5, 6, 7, 8 vaccinations. They do them all at the same time. They do the same dose for a 5-pound or 1-pound Chihuahua and a 150-pound Rottweiler. They get the same dose. Lots of antibiotics, lots of medication, just like for humans. They're exposed to the same air pollution. We use all these toxic, flea collars, the topicals that we put, the flea and tick shampoos that we use to bathe them. All these have ingredients that are neurotoxins. And I know you read on the label that it's safe and blah, 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 but I belong to several Facebook groups where they talk about the dewormers and they talk about these, and there are like literally horror stories of dogs being, applied these products and, a few days later, a few weeks later, seizures, dying, you name it. So a lot of these go unreported. This is my own personal experience. I had a dog who died of vaccinosis. He was vaccinated as a puppy, and 3 weeks later, he started having seizures, and he died 3 days later. And when you go back to the vet, they will never say, no, it's not related to the vaccine, not related to the vaccine. So a lot of these cases are not being reported. But if you listen to the commercials on TV for some of these products, they are now starting to put a disclaimer like it is causing issues in some dogs. So this applies a lot to dogs. If you live in one of the, a neighborhood that has like a golf course, or that they have like this outside maintenance of the lawns and the areas where you walk and the parks, those are usually heavily sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. That's why the grass looks so pretty and green. So if you walk on a grass that has lots of weeds, that's probably safer than one where everything is like perfectly green, because that is being heavily sprayed. So glyphosate is, I could talk about glyphosate probably like for 3 hours, but glyphosate is the main ingredient in something called Roundup that people use in their yards to kill the weeds. And this is extremely harmful because although Monsanto, that was the original company that put it out, said that it would only kill the weed, it would only kill plants. It turns out that it kills the gut bacteria. So when the bacteria in your gut die, you're pretty much, your immune system is shot, it's gone. So because it's a good bacteria in their gut, you've probably heard that 80% of your immune system lies in your gut. So when your good gut bacteria die, there's nothing to protect you. And so this is a huge, huge, huge issue. So if you spray Roundup in your yard, please stop, like right now. Then there's all these other things that we normally don't think much about, but things like those plugins that you put on the wall, the air fresheners, things like, you know, our dogs. So all of these things, the things that you use to clean the floors. What happens is, first of all, dogs walk barefoot, they lick their feet, they don't take showers every day like we do, they don't have any protective clothing to protect them from some of these things. And all these chemicals are heavy. So what happens is they tend to sink down in the air. And that is where, you know, our dogs are little, right? They're lower. So they are being exposed to a much, much, much higher degree of these contaminants than we are. They lay on the furniture, which is, you know, some of them are treated with fabric, you know, things to flame retardants and to resist stains. So it's chemicals upon chemicals upon chemicals upon chemicals. We can't forget the water, and this is also for us, right? So the water that you drink, do you have a filter? Do you have city water? They're now saying that because humans are taking so much medication, well, that is being flushed through the urine, and then that water goes to the city treatment plant and they treat it and gets back in the system. So not all of those chemicals and all those pharmaceuticals and all those toxins are being, you know, they're being kind of recycled back because they're not totally eliminated. This is another biggie for me, is food. If your dog eats only kibble, probably a huge percentage of that kibble comes from either GMO crops or animals. So the animal protein part of the kibble is from animals that have been in turn being fed only GMO crops. So what is GMO? GMO is genetically modified organism. And these are crops, and there's lots of them, that have been genetically modified so that they can be sprayed with this fabulous glyphosate so that the weeds are killed, but the crops survive. And not only that, when they harvest this, they spray them again because it makes them dry faster so that the harvesting machines can harvest it quicker and without less, you know, clogging and all of that. So as you can see, it's not just one thing, it's all these things together on a daily basis that is creating this massive exposure of toxins. So what is the issue? So all these toxins are going to add to something called oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the root cause of inflammation. And inflammation and oxidative stress are linked to over 200 diseases, including cancer. This is both for humans and for animals, for mammals, any mammal. It's very interesting. I've made good friends with a lady that works with zoo animals, and she says that animals in the wild do not get cancer. Zoo animals are getting cancer because their diet is being is not being the natural diet that they get in the wild. So very, very interesting how important you know, food is, right? So those free radicals, the easiest way for you to think of them is when you cut an apple and you leave it out on the counter, you know, it's going to get brown. What is that brown? It's oxidation. So the same thing happens inside your cell. If I could give you like a simple analogy, like, you know, you put gas in your car for the engine to run, but the exhaust is toxic, right? So inside the cell, we need air that has oxygen and the food that gets metabolized. And then that process creates toxins that are in the form of free radicals. So free radicals are these crazy little particles that are missing an electron, and they're trying to rip an electron from wherever they can to stabilize themselves. And in doing so, they damage the cell and they damage the DNA. So the DNA is in the nucleus of the cell, and that is what the cell uses to make another copy of itself. So in the normal cycle where a cell is born and then it serves its function for X amount of days, months, whatever, depending on what organ it is, and then it has to die. But before that, it makes a copy of itself, and then we hope that we have a new healthy cell. But what happens when that cell is making a copy of a faulty cell, it's the equivalent of maybe you forgetting a piece of paper in your pocket, and then you wash your clothes, and then you find it and you go like, oh, here's the paper, let me flatten it out and make a copy. And then that happens over and over and over. So over time, right, after several replications, you probably can't read what's there. So those are the mutations that now are being copied. So instead of copying a brand new perfect cell, we're copying a faulty cell, and then a faulty cell, and then a faulty cell. So over time, that is going to cause a lot of disruption in the body. So it is estimated that we make this amount of free radicals per day. And that is what scientists call the theory of aging due to accumulation of that oxidative stress, so that free radical damage. So that oxidative stress is going to affect every single organ system in the body. So that is why we have, cardiovascular disease, joint disease, lung disease, brain issues, which is now becoming very common. Doggy dementia, I hear about it all the time. And then here's our nemesis, cancer, okay? So everything is related, every bad thing is related to oxidative stress. So what we have been told so far is, oh, you have to have a diet of super healthy, lots of fruits and colorful veggies. But what happens is those are called direct antioxidants. And a direct antioxidant, so like antioxidants, like if you eat blueberries or broccoli or kale, we all know that that's good for us. But one antioxidant in a healthy food will neutralize one free radical, and they're both destroyed. That's it. It's a 1-to-1, one and done. Now, here we go again with the food, right? So this is what our most dogs eat day in, day out, 365 days a year for their whole life. So you tell me if there's anything colorful in there. This is like literally dead food. So one of the things that you really need to get educated about is how to upgrade your dog's diet, okay? So think about this. If eating healthy destroys one free radical per one molecule of antioxidant, how much healthy food do I need to eat to destroy this many free radicals in just one day? So what is happening is that those free radicals are going to be accumulated, and that's how the damage begins. So here's the fun part. This is the solution. So we call it biohacking. Hacking is taking control of a system. So in this case, we're talking about a biological system, our bodies or our dog's body, and we're going to make it work better. And that is where the nutrition part comes in. So this is how nutrients can affect our DNA. So it turns out that there are pathways. So pathway is a fancy word for instructions. So these are instructions in your cell. So your cell have instructions that say, you got to do this to stay healthy. So there is an instruction pathway called Nrf2 or Nrf2 for short. And it codes for protection, detoxification, and anti-inflammatory enzymes. So our bodies are perfect, and we have enzymes. It's like our own little pharmacy that makes enzymes that protect the cell against oxidative stress. It gives a signal to the DNA to make more antioxidant enzymes and anti-inflammatory enzymes and detoxifying enzymes. Now, the reason I put this like in orange is because I really believe this is what's super important for our dogs, because remember, we're dealing with, a gazillion toxins, right? So what happens is all these toxins are trying to be processed through the liver, and it gets to the point where the liver kind of gives up and says like, I can't anymore. There's not enough enzymes for it to be able to get rid of that massive assault. So it's going to also help repair DNA. And this is something that sounds fancy and sciencey, but apoptosis means proper cell death. And it sounds like a bad thing, but what happens is that all the cells have a cycle. You know, they're born, they serve a purpose, and then they reproduce, and then they have to die. When that process is messed up, the cells never die, and they keep reproducing. And that is one of the theories of why tumors arise, is this apoptosis is messed up. So this Nrf2 pathway will keep this working as it should, so that the cells complete their cycle and they die when they have to, and they're repaired by new cells, which hopefully the DNA is in perfect condition and not all beat up by the oxidative stress. Then we have another pathway, okay, so another set of instructions that increases something called mitochondria. And some of you may remember 6th grade biology. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. And it is. So think of the mitochondria as where the energy is made so that every reaction that happens in the body can occur. Okay. So it will increase cellular energy, and it will also improve physical performance. Okay. So this is energy in the cell for the cell to function properly, for it to be able to repair, for it to be able to do every single function, make hair, make skin, make hormones, all of that. You need the energy that is made in the mitochondria, and it's called ATP. Okay, so what do we have here? We have Nrf2 activation, we have NRF1 activation. These two go hand in hand. So there is a product called Protandim Nrf2 that is a mix of 5 natural herbal ingredients: turmeric, green tea, bacopa, milk thistle, and ashwagandha. And this has been clinically proven. In fact, it has a patent showing that it can reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. Now, this is like just unheard of. And they have human clinical trials. And what they found was that the people that were taking this Nrf2 activator, the light blue is how your oxidative stress goes up as you age. Okay, so this is a 20-year-old person. That's the level of oxidative stress we have when we're 20. This is the level of oxidative stress that we have when we're 80. Why is this happening? Because it's the progressive accumulation, that damage, that oxidative stress damage, those free radicals, but also because as we age, we make less enzymes. So it's like a double whammy. We don't make enough enzymes to get rid of the free radicals, and those keep accumulating and creating damage. And what they found is that when people started this protocol, they could not distinguish between the blood of an 80-year-old person. It had exactly the same level of oxidative stress as a 20-year-old. So in plain English, this means that when through nutrigenomics, you can make your body, your cells, function like they did when you were a 20-year-old person. That is what it means. And this is just like mind-blowing. So NRF1, it increases that cellular ATP. So they have also measured, this is again 5 natural ingredients, and it activates these 2 genes that by 65% and 71% that increase the mitochondria. So a couple of things that are important. You probably have heard of some of these ingredients, and some people will go like, well, I can go to the health food store and buy, green tea. I drink green tea, and I also take turmeric, and I can buy milk thistle. So what happens is that they actually tested each of these herbs individually, and you see how little they activate these enzymes. But when the combination, that patented formula, so that's a specific ratio, and also how they're made. So if I could give you like a silly example, let's say, for example, that you love your Aunt Mary's chocolate chip cookies, and you say, oh, can you please give me the recipe? And your aunt says, like, yes, it has sugar, flour, chocolate chips, baking soda, salt, and butter. There you go. So if you get all those ingredients and mix them up, are you going to get the same fabulous chocolate chip cookies? No, because you don't have the ratio. So this is because they were able to prove that it reduced oxidative stress. It reduced, actually they measured something called CRP, C-reactive protein. That's why they granted them the patent. So it's a special combination that we don't know, just like your aunt might not want to give you her recipe of the chocolate chip cookies. So this is a patented formula and it's 18 times more effective. So the reason that is so important, remember we were talking that this Nrf2, right, that it's going to activate your DNA so that it makes more antioxidant enzymes, more anti-inflammatory enzymes, and more detoxifying enzymes. The key word here is enzymes. Enzymes are able to eliminate 1 million free radicals per second, and they can recycle themselves. Okay, so instead of the 1-to-1, we're destroying 1-to-1 million. So can you now see the difference of, do we want to do a 1-to-1 or do we want to do 1-to-1 million when we have to eliminate all, this huge number that I don't even know how to pronounce? I think it's 300 septillion. Okay, so a little bit more about the importance of the enzymes. One of the enzymes that gets elevated by 300% with the Nrf2 formula of protandim is glutathione. And see here, detoxifies liver and cells. So these are just among some of the benefits of glutathione. Glutathione, if you can Google it, that's one thing that you can Google. Glutathione, and you'll see it's the master detoxifying enzyme in the body and in the liver. And what happens is as we age, you see here, so this is the level of oxidative stress, like I showed you in the other graph. So it stays kind of like lowish until we're 50, and then it starts going up, 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 up. And then this is our glutathione levels go the other way. So they go down, 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 down. Okay. So as we age, glutathione levels naturally decrease, and we have more free radical damage and oxidative stress damage. So let's talk a little bit more about the mitochondria, because this is where I got this like, wow, like in relationship to cancer, why is this so important? So we said the mitochondria is where the energy is made in the cell, but look what happens there. So there's mitochondrial disease, and some people have a genetic mutation where they don't make enough mitochondria, and look at all the things that can happen. So from multiple sclerosis, autoimmune diseases, liver failure, here we go, cancer, macular degeneration, unexplained kidney disease, heart failure, kidney disease, autism, hearing loss, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, so all the neurodegenerative, cerebral palsy, and on and on and on and on, diabetes, we go, okay? So this is just, so faulty mitochondria may be the cause for all of this stuff, okay? So this is from a book. This is a quote from a book by Travis Christofferson. It's super interesting. He says, the condition of the mitochondria dictate the capacity of the cell to function over time. As they decline, cellular operations decline with them. So in relation, so this is his book, Tripping Over the Truth, and they're talking about the metabolic theory of cancer. So you've heard a lot about, cancer, it's a mutation, blah, blah, blah. Well, this just, throws that all down the, where. And they say that it's actually when your mitochondria stop functioning that you get cancer. So there's recent research that demonstrate that if a cancerous cell nucleus is transplanted into a normal cell, the cell remains normal. Okay, so we have a cancerous cell, we get the nucleus from that cell, they're able to put it into a normal cell, the cell remains normal. But if they transplant the mitochondria of a cancerous cell into a normal cell, the cell becomes cancerous. Wow, 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 right? So cancer cells have damaged mitochondria. The damaged mitochondria will send emergency signals, and the DNA responds, and the cell begins to exhibit the hallmark features of cancer, which are uncontrolled proliferation, DNA mutations, and evasion of cell death. That's that apoptosis that I told you about. So DNA mutations. So what these researchers say is not that you have a mutation that causes cancer, is that your mitochondria stop working properly, then they cause mutations, then you get cancer. Okay. And these are quotes from The Truth About Cancer. They say all cancers are the same, and most people think that it's different. And breast cancer is not different from brain cancer, from colon cancer, from bladder, and it's not different in dogs, humans, mice. They are all the same. Cancer starts from the damage to the respiration, which happens in the mitochondria, regardless of the tissue. The mitochondria become damaged. Once the mitochondria become damaged, they throw out reactive oxygen species. They are mutagenic and carcinogenic. So here we go. So this is the ticket. Nrf2 activation protects by reducing free radical damage. It turns on survival genes that reduce inflammation, and it detoxes by activating glutathione by 300%. This is all clinical proven studies. If you're a science person, we can get you the studies. Nrf1 will increase cellular energy, promotes the formation of healthy mitochondria, and now we know how important that is, and it can maintain peak cellular function. Now, you don't have to believe me. You can go to pubmed.gov, which is the National Institute of Health online library, and there are over 20,000 studies on Nrf2 activation and over 1,500 studies about Nrf1. So you can go and type, it has a search bar just like in Google. You can type oxidative stress, you can type Nrf2 oxidative stress, and you can even type Protandim Nrf2, and you'll see that there's 28 studies done on the specific product. So we have probably now like a phone book of stories about this being used therapeutically. So therapeutically means I already have an issue, and then we start activating with Nrf2 and NRF1, and this is what happens. So I'm not going to say this is meant to treat, cure, mitigate any disease, but picture's worth 1,000 words. So dog gets activated, this happens. This is a cat that it was a rescue, and when she was found, her foot was broken. So she was not putting weight on the pad of her feet, of her little foot, but on the bone. And this huge callus had happened. And they had done several surgeries, grafts, and the vet said, we have to amputate the leg. Well, this is about 3 months later, this became this, okay? This is another dog from one of my students. So, but this is how a normal knee in a dog should look. This is what this dog's knee looked like. So it's just total mush. And they thought it was bone cancer. So they called the specialist at UF here in Florida, in Gainesville, and they said, oh, no, he just has horrible arthritis. There's nothing you can do about it. You should amputate the leg. Well, here's this dog, fast forward like 4 years later, running in the snow. Just last week, she sent me a picture of him like jumping over a creek. So obviously his knee is just as bad, like nothing happened there, but because of the inflammation and the scar tissue being able to be reduced with Nrf2 activation, this is like 4 years later. So he still has all his legs, thank goodness. Liver issues are linked to skin conditions because the skin is the largest organ. So what happens is when the body is overloaded with toxins, it will try to use the skin to get rid of it. So a lot of the skin conditions are the body trying to get rid of all these toxins, and it can't. And it causes these awful things. So again, these are activated dogs with Nrf2, and the results are great. But my main thing is prevention. Prevention. So let's look at the right side here. So this was a study. We've all heard that 1 year is equivalent to 6 years in dog's life. We've all heard that, right? Well, it turns out that sadly, that's not the case. So they did a study at a university in California. I can't remember exactly which one. And they, because they've mapped the human genome and they've also mapped the canine genome. So they found these markers for aging. And so they were comparing the dog one with the human one, and they looked at these markers. So what they discovered is that our dogs age exponentially the first 4 years of their life. So today I actually had one of my students ask me, like, you really think, my dog is just a year old, should I start activating him? Does he really need it? Well, at 1 year old, your dog is 30, not 1 year old and not 6. They're 30 years old. By 4 years old, they're 50. And then the curve starts slowing down. So by 10, they're like 70, 60, 70, something like that. You see it here, okay? So the sooner that we start with these prevention strategies, the much better, because what we're trying to talk here is about health span. So health span is a new term. So it's not how long you live, right? Because who wants to live and, spend the last 2 years, hooked to a machine in a hospital? That's not how I want to live, right? We want to live healthy, doing what we love to do. And so this is what's called health span, is how long we live healthy. So genetically speaking, our dogs could live to be 20 and even more, the smaller breeds. But sadly, after 10, 50% of the dogs are going to get cancer and die. So we've literally cut their life expectancy in half. So I hope that this helps you understand that it makes a lot of sense to start biohacking early. And I just put this cute little thing, let's help them celebrate more birthdays, because, we're always saying like, oh, the only fault that our dogs have is they don't live long enough. So what if we could help them? And there's actually, if you're interested, there is a study that this can increase lifespan, the Protein Nrf2. So to recap, what I want everybody to grasp with this is that our body's ability to heal is greater than we have been allowed to believe if we give them the right tools, right? So if this has caught your attention, get back with the person who invited you, get all your questions answered. I would, activate everyone that I love the day before yesterday. And I also want to do this call to invite you to join our team. Like we want you to join our team and, help us, because all this suffering that's going on, all these animals, and one thing that I share from, actually it's one of my business partners, is he's an autoimmune specialist, and he says, people don't think about prevention. They go through life and then it's like jumping off a plane without a parachute, and then they go on their life like, no, I'm fine, I don't want to exercise, I don't want to eat healthy, I don't want to look at all this stuff. And then when he says when they're 300 feet from the ground, which is what he's saying, is when they get then this diagnosis of a dire condition, then they start pulling on the parachute, and now they start, oh, now I'm going to exercise and go to the gym and put a water filter and eat healthy and take all these supplements, and now it's too late. So I think a lot of this, it applies to us, but it applies like tenfold to our animals, because they're being exposed to so many toxins, and it's really I don't even have words to say, like, the amount of disease and suffering, and people spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to help them when it's really too late. So you can become a distributor for as little as $50 a month. There's some distributors back with product, like if you decide like, wow, like I really want this for all my family, but we want less of this and more of this, happy, healthy. So we are building teams in all of these countries. So if you yourself, or someone that has a passion, to help the animals, we provide the training. This is an awesome company. There's science up the wazoo that backs up what the products do. And it's just such a simple way to help all mammals, because we have people that have used it with horses, with hedgehogs, with cats, with cows, with goats. So that's my my call. Like I really would love to have more people join us and spread the word. This is so simple, and we have so many wonderful stories. So I hope this has opened your eyes to this new nutrigenomics science that is so exciting. And it can give our animals. I'm going to stop recording. Carolee, if you want to say something, I'll just stop recording, and then I'll share a personal story.
Okay, I do want to tell everybody that we'll be able to share a recording, right, Lillian? Because we've had that question.
Yes, I'll edit it and we'll record it.
Good, we can have that for our friends.
Yes.
And I love that you invited people to join us, Lillian, because it makes your heart so happy when you can help somebody's animal. I mean, and we do it all the time, and we just, it's lovely. And if you are thinking about it at all, please talk to whoever told you about this and join us. We'd love to have you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.